Session opens today with the people's representatives challenged to focus their actions on improving on the development of their communities, while spotlight at the Senate was on the prevailing situation of the coronavirus in Cameroon and across the globe. While the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 rises to 27 in Cameroon, government says the first 2 patients have been retested negative and discharged from hospital. Meanwhile, government equally takes concrete action to preempt the spread of the coronavirus with the temporary closure of reception center for users and the putting in place of online medium to acquire information. And those are top stories. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the 7:30 News with me, Gladys Tata. The first ordinary session of the 2020 legislative year has begun at the National Assembly with the eldest member of the House, Honorable Laurentine Kouam-Fegembede, enjoining the lawmakers to legislate and control government action in favor of the people. During the sitting attended by members of government, she recalled the need to remain tolerant vis-à-vis divergent political views and respect their status of immunity. Esther Kima has the details.
The March session of the 2020 legislative year opens in the wake of the coronavirus scare, which asks everyone obliged to respect the recommended hygienic rules. Committed to check the spread of the pandemic and to guarantee the well-being of Cameroonians, the lawmakers expected to vote both government and private members' bills remain keen to the counsel of the eldest member of the House. Before the government's bench led by Prime Minister Joseph John Goute and a host of other high-ranking personalities, Honorable Laurentine Kouam-Fegembede expounded on the missions of the legislators. In conformity with Section 16 of the Constitution of Cameroon and Section 15(4) of the Standing Orders of the National Assembly, which stipulate that the first ordinary session of the year will witness the election of the Permanent Bureau, she exhorted the people's representatives to be ready for the exercise. Expected to contribute positively to the ensuing deliberations on bills tabled, they were enjoined to be in deference to the political outlook of others, to shun boycotts in debates, and not to misconstrue their immunity for impunity.
I would like to note that discipline is the cornerstone of the foregoing, the key to your success. I ardently wish us every success in this first year of our 5-year mandate.
And so, for the next 30 days, legislation and control of government action will be effected at the National Assembly.
And over at the Senate, they have also started meeting for the first session of the 2020 legislative year. The session was opened by the eldest member of the House, Isabel Tokpano-Njole Asuo. She invited senators to be particularly committed on the course of the session and to give their best in all endeavors undertaken by the institution. As we hear in the following report, it was an opening session highly marked by the prevailing situation of the coronavirus in Cameroon and the world. Christian Che Atam tells us more.
This first ordinary session for 2020 at the Senate started under strict health controls. The senators were subjected to different health checks and exercises before acceding to the hemicycle of the Yaoundé Conference Center, where the 1 meter spacing between different sitting positions was respected scrupulously.
They've given us sanitizers and they have equally done I think it's a temperature check, and they've offered masks. So I think that so far it's a good measure.
In the presence of Prime Minister Joseph John Goute and other dignitaries, the session was opened by the eldest member of the Senate, Honorable Isabel Tokpano-Njole Asuo, sitting in for Senator Mfon Victor Mukete, was assisted by the 2 youngest, Senator Lekunze Andreas Membo and Senator Abui Marlis. In her speech, the eldest member of the day saluted the organization of the February 19 elections. She commended the government for the different measures taken to check the spread of coronavirus in Cameroon and said the Senate will play its full role in the fight.
This session is taking place under very particular situations. The world is facing the coronavirus. In that way, we have to function as an institution to enable the state move ahead. It gives us the opportunity to listen to explanations from members of government.
The second year of the second legislative period at the Senate is well and truly underway. Senators say they are looking forward to a hitch-free session.
And as you heard in our top story, the first 2 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Cameroon that were in isolation at the Yaoundé Central Hospital have tested negative after more than 2 weeks of symptomatic treatment. Both persons have been discharged from the hospital to continue treatment at home while giving updates of their health situation to the medical doctor. Yoti Kaleli Songe was at the Yaoundé Central Hospital today and compiled the following report for the 7:30 News.
Over 5 persons at the Yaoundé Central Hospital Isolation Unit to restore the health of 2 COVID-19 cases that recently tested negative to the virus.
Since the 6th of February, we have received three patients until now. As you know, we have discharged 2.
Despite the successful treatment of the 2 discharged, the drill remains the same for the COVID-19 team, as well as those tested negative, threading with caution.
They are not a danger now, otherwise we cannot discharge them. But we have to follow them at home. They have to wear a mask during their stay at home. After 14 days again, we have to repeat the exams.
As Cameroon rejoices over the 2 cases, the isolation unit has stepped up their capacity to receive more patients.
The reason why we received 3 is that our capacity was 3 patients at that time. Now our capacity has increased so that we can receive actually 20 patients.
With the treatment of 2 victims, there is a glimmer of hope that the health sector in Cameroon can contain the coronavirus. Medical personnel insist that the population respects basic hygienic practices in order to stay safe.
The Minister of Public Health, via his Twitter account, has once more urged Cameroonians to respect the 13 recommendations put in place by the government to curb the spread of the coronavirus. In another tweet, the minister says there are 27 confirmed cases of the coronavirus as of now. Rainatu Sali comes back on the measures put in place by the Cameroon government and the WHO.
Cameroon, like many other countries in the world, has not been spared by the coronavirus pandemic. From the very first hours of its emergence, government implemented a prevention and response plan aimed at stemming the spread of the disease, and these measures were reinforced on March 17, 2020, during an interministerial consultation. On the instructions of the head of state, Cameroon's land, air and sea borders have been closed and the issuance of entry visas to Cameroon suspended. All public and private training establishments of various levels of education have equally been closed and gatherings of more than 50 persons prohibited. The government also ordered for the postponement of school and university games and the suspension of missions abroad, a system for regulating consumer flows in markets and supermarkets has been put in place, and bars, restaurants and entertainment spots now shut their doors at 6 p.m. To contain the spread of the coronavirus, government has also urged citizens to limit movements and drivers of buses, taxis and motorbikes to avoid overloading. In terms of self-protection, the public has been called upon to strictly observe hygiene measures recommended by the World Health Organization. They include regular hand washing with soap, using disposable tissue, avoiding close contact such as shaking hands or hugging, and covering the mouth when sneezing or coughing. In case of need, the public is invited to call the toll-free number 1510 set up for the mobilization of rescue teams.
And the statistics have improved, and the latest information from the Ministry of Public Health talks of 27 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 as of now. The Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famdongo, has chaired a meeting aimed at coming up with ways through which students of institutions of higher learning can continue taking their courses in a wake of the COVID-19. The Yaoundé meeting is in compliance with the 13 measures laid down by the Prime Minister a few days ago to curb the spread of the disease. Vice-chancellors and directors of state universities, officials of international universities and other representatives of structures with special status alongside promoters of private institutions took part in the brainstorming. Ewana Ipole tells us more.
These officials of the Ministry of Higher Education have joined the fray in the mitigation of the COVID-19 pandemic. The crisis meeting, which comes on the heels of the Prime Minister's decision regulating movements and prescribing hygiene and sanitation measures, is to ensure that universities are free from the coronavirus. Chairing the forum, the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famdongo, lauded the efforts of rectors and directors of professional higher institutions for the work done so far in guaranteeing a hitch-free academic year.
With the measures that are being taken today, the university of tomorrow will be better than yesterday because it will have proved a qualifying test by drawing from the depth of its treasures and energy so as to face this threatening adversity.
Minister Jacques Famdongo also requested for the introduction of digitalized pedagogy or online lectures during this recess period in order to cover the syllabuses of the current academic year.
Among the measures taken at the level of the Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reform to bar the way to the coronavirus is the temporary closure of the reception center for users, installation of hand sanitizers and points to wash hands with soap. The Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms, Joseph Lay, says the structure is highly on their career. The temporary measures are to allow the use of the online medium to inquire on any subject as a way to limit crowds and avoid the spread of the COVID-19. Emanuela Vemnui reports.
He refuses to come to terms with the drastic measures to temporarily shut down the user's house at the Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reform. 24 hours already gone, the public has been told to cooperate. No more direct contact with the personnel here, only phone calls in case of service needed. Wow. Hygiene and sanitation measures like hand washing with soap and the use of hand sanitizers have been intensified. Everyone here passes through the infrared thermometer for temperature check at the entrance. Inside the ministry, sensitization messages are posted at strategic areas reminding users of the gravity of the virus in circulation.
This morning, for example, we had to receive more than 350 young Cameroonians. We have been obliged to send a message telling them that they should wait. We have at least 3 phone numbers. They can call us freely, even if they need physical documents. We can scan and send them to our users.
The Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reform that manages a career of about 260,000 civil servants and state agents will have to use the electronic method for now.
Worship houses in Yaoundé have begun respecting the not more than 50 persons gathering. Some mosques, like the Central Mosque in Yaoundé, have shut their doors, encouraging faithful to pray in smaller groups. Churches, on their part, have adopted for several church services and masses on Sundays with 50 worshippers only in attendance. Constantine Bomb visited some places of worship in Yaoundé and says the spiritual life of Christians of all denominations will not be compromised because of the COVID-19.
Many Muslims in Yaoundé were unable to pray in congregation, following one of the 13 measures that prohibits the gathering of more than 50 persons. Many who came to pray at the Etudi Central Mosque found the gates closed.
We did reduce the time of resting at mosque. We just opened the mosque a few minutes before the prayer, and after the prayer we closed the mosque. For the Friday prayers, it was very impossible for big mosque. So what we did is to suspend this prayer for this big mosque.
The faithful then resorted in forming small prayer groups. The Chinga Islamic complex, the biggest in Cameroon, is empty. No Friday prayers as well as teachings. The prohibition measure is also respected by churches. At the Mary Mediator Sanctuary Church Etudi, the gates are closed. The parish priest on seat wants to inform parishioners of the measure through a communique. Among the items contained in it is that not more than 3 persons will sit on a bench and up to 10 masses will be celebrated on Sundays to enable all the Christians take their spiritual problems to God.
It is important to pray, but it is very, very important to follow the law of government.
Suspending prayers in mosques and churches, the spiritual leaders have advised, is not a way to stop praying. Rather, faithful have been encouraged to double their supplication to God to halt the spread of the virus in Cameroon.
And in a bid to contain the coronavirus from churches and mosques in the South region, major prayer sessions have equally been suspended, while some aspects of worship have been modified. Religious authorities have called for more prayers if the pandemic must be overpowered. Pontianos Lawong tells us more from our South Regional Bureau in Abolova.
Religious authorities in the South region have taken drastic measures to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. At the Bolova Central Mosque, the Friday prayer session has been suspended until further notice, while Muslim faithful have been encouraged to pray in small groups in their various homes and neighborhoods.
Even in Islamic, even the Prophet ﷺ allowed us to protect ourselves when there is an epidemic. But this is a pandemic. We're supposed to do our best to protect our people.
In the Bolova Diocese of the Catholic Church, certain aspects of worship have been modified, including the shaking of hands as a sign of peace, while basic hygiene and sanitation rules have also been prescribed. His Lordship Philip Alembarga, Bishop of Bolova, has called on the faithful to intensify prayer if the pandemic must be stamped out. Villas SDO Siliak Marimvogo has, in the crisis meeting held in Bolova recently, instructed collaborators to ensure an effective implementation of the 13 preventive measures announced by the Prime Minister on Tuesday, underlining that teamwork and sensitization are the key words.
Yaoundé city dwellers are still to fully apply the measures by government restricting overboarding in taxis and buses across the country. The usual practice is still visible in the capital city, with a few doing the right thing. As Emmanuela Vermier tells us, taxi and bus drivers are quick to count their losses.
Ready for a ride, he hops in to overload a taxi in Yaoundé, where smiles are still worn when doing the wrong thing. It bothers Aisha not to share a seat with another, and many more are like her, giving a deaf ear to the government measure to keep overloading on the check so as to fight against the spread of COVID-19.
Cameroonians need to respect these measures. It is our health that is at risk. If more drastic measures are needed for the virus to stop, I am for them.
It seems difficult to respect the social distances in public transport vehicles, like here, where buses take off for Soa outskirts of Yaoundé. A few taxis, however, breathe in Yaoundé, 2 to 3 passengers behind and 1 in front.
We were supposed to carry 5 passengers in the car, but now we are carrying but 4 passengers.
Interurban passenger buses take off here and there. As security is respected, the officials reassure.
For a 29-seater bus, we accept 15 people inside, even though we are losing greatly as taxes and insurance costs remain the same.
Losses, yes, but health first, they are reassured. Cameroonians, therefore, need to understand that disrespecting the measures taken by government is putting their lives and those of others at risk of the deadly COVID-19.
And it's weekend, but many can't have their usual fun night in cabarets and nightclubs, following measures taken by government to close down those places at 6 p.m. daily. Owners of these facilities have been sent thinking of alternatives in order not to suffer a more serious blow. Beatrice Losamba went visiting cabarets and nightclubs to weigh the impact of the lockdown. Here's our report.
The stage has gone cold. A once lively place at night time goes to sleep at sundown, only to spend a sleepless night.
It is tough. We are losing sleep over this decision to shut down at 6 p.m. We are losing 100% of our gains, given that activities begin at nightfall. Daytime is time to sleep for us.
An imposed change of schedule. These night timers would have to switch routines to sleep at night and wake up at dawn. Only they will wake up to unfruitful days.
We do nothing but open up our snack, dust the chairs, keep our equipment safe from moisture, and just keep the doors open so our customers know we have not shut our doors.
The risk of shutting down is their main headache, a nightmare for these cabaret and nightclub workers who go in search for their daily bread at night. The light has been turned out on them, and they are restless, figuring out how to bear the burden of a lockdown, which expiry date no one knows.
Take you over to the littoral region to see if transport measures are being respected by the city dwellers, by the dwellers in the Douala. Let's have Mercy Ashu Nebeye, who tells us more from CRTV Douala.
The Prime Ministerial text banning overloading on motorbikes and taxis to check the spread of the coronavirus seems to be falling on deaf ears. In Douala, the city that never sleeps, the mask and gloves worn by some city dwellers are proof that commuters and drivers alike are aware of the pandemic and the Prime Ministerial decision.
It's not an obligation that we should carry 5 passengers, but when 5 passengers come, we carry them. I'm taking up to Bonabiri, Garoutier, that we turn back to Garoutier and come back here to Rompon.
It is a clean-up campaign exercise this Thursday morning. Our cameras and microphones capture the sights and sounds at 3 busy takeoff points: Ndokoti, Ecole Publique, and Wrong Point I do.
I haven't yet bought my mask, but by the end of the day, I will do it. For overloading, we don't do it. It's not even Prime Minister declared that we asked me not to overload. I respect what my categories authorize me to carry.
Perhaps a successful application of the Prime Ministerial text in the interurban transport sector will imply that the forces of law and order track down defaulters in addition to their usual traffic controls.
Sensitization campaigns to combat the widespread of COVID-19 have been intensified at the Ministry of Public Health. One of the measures has been, therefore, by setting up of billboards at some public spaces in Yaoundé, carrying messages related to the prevention of the coronavirus. Romeo Kenye toured some of the neighborhoods and brought back the following report.
Coronavirus is a reality. Keep calm and call the toll-free number 1510 for any emergency. This is one of the prominent messages showcased on billboards implanted in some neighborhoods in Yaoundé by the Ministry of Public Health.
We are working on the fact or the way to occupy all the places that can be used to send or to transmit our message.
Made up of different sizes, the posters are there for the well-being of the population. But do they really read them?
Oui.
Yes, I always read what is written on the posters. I think it's a very good idea. Most of the messages are on hygienic conditions we have to take into consideration to avoid the spread of the coronavirus, such as washing of hands frequently and also avoiding shaking hands with people.
While hoping this campaign will create awareness among many Yaoundé inhabitants, officials of the Ministry of Public Health say they will extend the initiative to other regions of the country.
And with the increasing number of coronavirus victims in the country, especially in Yaoundé, many are asking the question, how safe is the exchange of money, given that individuals need to observe a 1-meter distance according to the measures outlined by the World Health Organization. Medics, however, advise that the only way to prevent the spread of the virus is by observing proper hygiene methods. Joyce Tata tells us more in the following report.
Coronavirus or not, the exchange of banknotes and coins in the purchase of goods and services continue daily in the nation's capital. In supermarkets, the sales accountants are equipped, but for the customers, one would wonder how risky such operations are on an individual basis.
Contamination of patients or people through banknotes or coins is due to the fact that people may not respect the basic hygiene rule. The solution for not to transmit coronavirus actually with banknotes is just to wash your hands.
If these banknotes and coins are suspected carriers of the virus, medics say there is a way out in averting its spread to humans.
Once you can easily wash them with chlorine or antiseptic and it will disappear. But for the banknotes, in case they are contaminated, you can just expose them because the virus is not very, very resistant.
Inhabitants of Yaoundé nevertheless say they have a backup while carrying out activities which require the exchange of money.
When I go to the supermarket, after the transactions, when I go home or somewhere where there is water, I wash my hands.
Others believe such measures should be adopted by both parties.
Mobile operators could facilitate the transfer of money. One could pay using an ATM card or money transfer of even 200 francs to someone who sells tomatoes.
Medical experts continue to reiterate the fact that all through the quarantine period, basic hygienic rules should be observed by everyone as a strong barrier against the virus.
Local officials of the Ministry of Trade in the Far North region have been visiting markets in Marwa to ensure that measures prescribed by the government are respected. Although there is sufficient supply of foodstuff in the markets, there is need to reorganize consumers' flow as observed by the Far North Regional Delegation of Trade. Abubakari Abdullahi.
There is an abundance of cereals, tubers, vegetables, beef and a variety of food items at the Marwa main market. In line with government response strategy to the coronavirus, the Far North Regional Delegate of Trade has been visiting the market to ensure that laid-down measures are respected.
It's their own interest to respect the government measures because the coronavirus is a real menace of our humanity, so that everyone has to do effort at its level to prevent our region and our population of this calamity.
But the system of regulating consumer flow is yet to be a reality, just like the handling of food items as decried by the Vice President of the market.
The main problem we have here is that some sellers display their articles on bare floor. Most of us do not use gloves.
While cautioning against speculation and price hikes, the Far North Regional Delegate of Trade has promised to restructure the market as instructed by the Minister of Trade.
To work with administrative authorities and mayors to organize market in order to permit consumers to not be present at important numbers at the same place and to sell produce by sectors.
Visibly at the Marwa main market, buyers and sellers are committed to respect government measures to keep the coronavirus in check.
And that was Ayuk John Ashu from Marwa. And this press release just coming in while commending party militants' heartfelt enthusiasm, eager to make the 35th anniversary of the CPDM a very special one. They are once more called upon in a spirit of exemplary civic mindedness and responsibility to individually and collectively ensure the strict implementation of the strong and salutary measures prescribed within the framework of the fight against the coronavirus by the Prime Minister, Head of Government, following the esteemed instructions of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya. In this regard, as required by the terms of the press release of 18th of March 2020, all CPDM section presidents are hereby requested to postpone all rallies and manifestations on the 24th of March 2020. As regards the reflection and meditation on the theme chosen for the 35th anniversary of the party, it must be supported in order to strengthen the mobilization of all militants behind the President of the Republic and in his relentless effort to restore long-lasting peace throughout the national territory. And this has been signed by the Secretary General of the Central Committee, Jean Kwete, Yaoundé, the 19th of March 2020. And on to this obituary, Emmanuel Gamban Lusiri, who slept in the Lord last February 23, 2020, will be laid to rest tomorrow in Bingambo in Lolodov Ocean Division of the South Region. The late former Deputy Director General of the CRTV and the then Director General of Intelcam and later Camtel began his journey beyond today at the General Hospital mortuary, where former colleagues, family and some members of government gathered to bid him farewell during his coffining. Beatrice Ngom was among the mourners and now reports.
A A Black Friday it was for the bereaved family of Emmanuel Ngiamba Lutsiri. Former colleagues, friends and well-wishers turned out at the Yaoundé General Hospital mortuary for the requiem service to bid farewell to the departed, amongst them former colleagues at CRTV, Intelcam, present-day Camtel.
The GM of Camtel was a good man, a privileged competence. He was the GM of all Cameroonians.
Those who worked with him at the CRTV while he was Deputy Director General and those who served under him as Director General of Intelcam, today Camtel, and even at the Lolodov Council say he was an advisor and a man who worked for the betterment of his community.
I worked with him as a member of the Council of Lolodov for 12 years. He was very interested in welfare of the population of Lolodov.
From the mortuary of the Yaoundé General Hospital, the mortal remains of Emmanuel Ngiamba Lutsiri were then conveyed to his Omispor residence, where family awaited the corpse in a gloomy atmosphere. After a brief stop at his Omispor residence, the casket then hit the road for Lolodov in the Ocean Division, where Emmanuel Ngiamba Lutsiri will be buried Saturday in his native village, Bingambo.
And may his soul rest in peace. On to this advertorial, the Director General of the #1 cement manufacturing company, Semencam, has reassured government of the company's support to accompany her in boosting Cameroon's economic development. The assurance was made by the Minister of Employment and Vocational Training as he undertook a working visit to the company in Douala. As Ebo Doris Fankem tells us, the minister's visit falls in line with government's pursuit to create 3 million jobs for young Cameroonians by 2020-2035.
With a dense supply network across all 10 regions of Cameroon and beyond, the oldest cement production company in Cameroon, Semencam, has for the past years sustained quality cement production with its latest brand, Hydra. Founded in 1963, the cement plant has an annual production of 1.30 million tons of cement and a staff strength of 350 workers. The Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, Issa Chiruma Bakari's visit to Semencam is indication that the company has stood the test of time to accompany government in its vision to recruit 3 million young people by 2020-2035. During his working visit, Minister Issa Chiruma Bakari said government seeks to enhance the company's competitiveness. The General Manager of Semencam, Benoit Galichet, says all logistics are taken into consideration for them to accompany government.
They came with two strong messages. The first one is how Semencam is able to create some work, some jobs for Cameroon. And yes, we can commit. Semencam has a lot of projects to develop activities, new products, new things around his own activities, and we can commit. We will create some jobs. The second message the minister shared with us is we need to develop, to train people to be able to tackle new challenges, new jobs, and typically it's what we aim. So now it's a little bit how we collaborate more between the state and between our own facilities, because Semencam is part of Lafarge-Holcim. Lafarge-Holcim is able and is willing to develop a lot of people. So
dynamic manpower coupled with its credibility to its clientele and the state, the company has spread its tentacles to Nomayos, which is a grinding unit located about 30 kilometers away from Yaoundé. The plant in Cameroon is a power broker that seeks to boost Cameroon economic development.
And we shall be drawing the curtains on the 7:30 news with this obituary. FOTSO Victor, one of Cameroon's top entrepreneurs, has died today in Paris at the age of 94. He was known as one of the greatest economic operators in the country and the current mayor of Banjul. FOTSO Victor will be remembered as one who accompanied the government by building universities and churches to offer to the church in Cameroon. We will be coming back to that report in our subsequent newscast. And that does it on the 7:30 news. Thanks for watching. At 8:30, Atabadine Umar will be here for the news in French. Join me tomorrow, same time at 7:30. Until then, it's bye from all of us on the 7:30 crew. Good night.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.